Welcome back to the lecture series of managerial economics. In this session, I'm going to discuss one of the most important topic, that is elasticity of demand. In this session, I'll be discussing about what is the meaning of elasticity of demand, what are the types of elasticity of demand, and what are the major factors which are impacting on elasticity of demand, and I'm going to conclude the session. Let me explain with the help of a practical example so that you will be understanding the concept in a pretty clear fashion. By the way, you know what is the meaning of law of demand. So already know that when the price of product increases, of course, the demand decreases. It is inverse relation. And when the price decreases, people are started buying and demand will be getting increased. But it doesn't tell us how much the demand changes when the price changes. That is actually the one of the hidden fact that you should understand. So to explain how much the demand changes when the price changes, we should talk about the elasticity of demand. What is elasticity of demand? As per the definition, how sensitive the demand of the product is changes in price or other factors. That is generally called as elasticity. Let's consider a rubber band. If you pull the rubber band very fastly, what is going to happen? Very roughly, it will elongate in a longer fashion. Suppose if it is not stretched a little bit, what will happen? It will stretch in a slight, very slightly. So same fashion, we need to compare with the elasticity of demand. Yes. So that is one of the typical example. So let us give one example. If I talk about like a luxury car and compare with the salt, a price of luxury car dropped 10%. Like that never give like a major demand of purchasing it. If I talk about the salt, suppose price hike of the salt is increased by 50%. Still people are, it is a lot of the essential. Definitely people are going to buy it. This means luxury car has elastic demand. That means that demand changes. Anyway, people will, again, few people will join and buy, correct? Because 10% amount, there is a price drop of 10%. Of course, people are ready to buy it. But if I talk about the salt, it increases 50% also. People doesn't bother about that. It is unavoidable. People are ready to buy it. But the salt has inelastic demand. That is a difference between elastic demand and inelastic demand. If I talk about the luxury car, price drop has been 10% means people are going to buy, more number of people will join and buy. That means it's elastic. Where if I talk about the salt or sugar, anyway, it is unavoidable, no. So that is actually inelastic. So the demand will either increase or decrease, regardless of price. If it is price hike of 130%, so people are also ready to buy it. Why? Because it is very essential, right? Yeah, that's what I want to convince you. So hope you understood elastic demand and inelastic demand. Yes. Another example is movie ticket on weekday and weekends. For example, if movie ticket are cheaper on weekdays, of course, because during the work time, people will not get the time, so that the theater multiplex, they are going to reduce the price. But on the weekend, even though price is very high, people are ready to buy it. But because everybody want a change, right? You want a change. So during weekend, you will rush up and get a ticket. Correct. Though if the price hike is more than 100% also, doesn't matter. This shows that weekday demand is more elastic than weekend demand. Correct. Weekend, that is another example. Similarly, what are the types of elasticity of demand? So price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, promotional elasticity of demand, substitution elasticity of demand. These are the 5 types of elasticity of demand. Let us understand in briefly what is the meaning of individual elasticity of demand. I would like to talk about price elasticity of demand. Here, according to price elasticity of demand, how much demand changes when price changes. That gives the idea about price elasticity of demand. For example, if the price of an iPhone drops, more people buy it. If price of Audi car drops 20%, anyway, more people are ready to buy it. If it increases, few people will buy it. Correct. That's what. Not very high, few people buy it. For Mercedes-Benz, 20% price has been come down. A few more people also ready to join it and buy. They are going to buy. Few more customer will be added. Income elasticity demand. If I talk about like income elasticity demand, it shows that how demand changes when the people income changes. Suppose my salary has been increased from one, like for example, a person A, his salary was 80,000, 80,000 INR. 80,000 has been increased to 1,20,000. Anyway, his lifestyle that is going to change. He is going to buy the branded shoes. He is going to buy new, he wanted to shift his weekend restaurant party with a very like a premium restaurants like that. Even food habit also will change. Correct? Yes, and the dress habit, everything, the way of dressing, everything will change. That is basically on like income elasticity demand. I hope you understood. Another one is actually called cross elasticity demand. In this case, how demand of one product changes when the price of related product changes. Suppose the price of Coca-Cola has been increased. Of course, what I will do? I'll change over to Miranda or Pepsi, or I'll go to Thumbs Up. Correct? That is called the cross elasticity demand. Promotional elasticity demand is very simple. How demand changes due to advertisements and promotions. Suppose new iPhone advertised heavily and more people are ready to buy it, even the price remains same. Advertisement plays most important creating the elasticity of demand. Okay, that is called a promotional elasticity of demand. I hope you understood. So price doesn't matter, but more advertisement impacting on you. Because of that, the demand changes. There is a flexibility in the demand. Correct? Yeah. Substitution elasticity of demand. Show how demand changes when there is a substitute. For example, if the train ticket price increased, immediately what I will do? I'm going to go for like a bus. Okay, I'll be booking bus immediately. If I found like a price of train got increased, right? That is called a substitution of elasticity demand. In that, there are different types, degree, according to the like a degree, the types of elasticity demand, price elasticity demand. So there are different degree in the sense it can be divided as perfect elasticity demand, perfectly inelastic demand, relatively elastic demand, relatively inelastic demand, then unitary elasticity demand. These are the degree of price elasticity demand. So I can show you in the graph also. Let us talk about like a perfectly elastic demand. A tiny price changes cause an infinite changes in the demand is generally called as perfectly elastic demand. You can observe here. Here price, we can say it remains constant here. A company sells a pencil of rupees 5. If increases the price to 5, rupees 510, no one buy them. Correct. That is actually happening in the case of perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly inelastic demand, no matter the price, demand remains same. For example, diabetic patients, he or she ready to buy the medicine regardless of any hike in price. That is called a perfectly inelastic demand. You can observe perfectly inelastic demand. You can see the elastic demand that is tends to zero. Here, okay, ED becomes zero. In the previous case, ED become infinite. Then relative elastic demand, a small price changes cause a big demand changes. A discount on flight ticket leads a big rise in travelers, of course, that will happen. So that is actually called relative inelastic demand, which is shown in the diagram. That means the percentage, you can see the ratio that is given as 0.5, it is ED less than like 1, that is 50%, right? Relatively inelastic demand says that a big price changes cause small demand changes. A rise in petrol prices leads only a small reduction in the usage. That's all. So if I talk about like a relative inelastic demand that you can observe here, we can say like elastic demand that is equal to 100%. That means 1. Unitary elastic demand says that demand changes exactly in proportion to price changes. If the price of product increased by 10%, demand decreased by 10%. That is generally called as unitary elastic demand. So there are different factors affecting elasticity of demand. One is nature of the product, like necessities and luxury. If I talk about necessity, demand does not change much with the price. Food, medicine, a daily essential. If I talk about luxuries, demand changes significantly with respect to prices. Air conditioner, then branded watches, they even wearable, etc. So availability of substitute. More substitute means more elastic demand. That is another factor, availability of substitute. If the price of Pepsi rises, people switch over to Mirinda or Coke or some other drinks. Use of the product is another factor which is affecting the elasticity demand. Single-use product like salt, sugar, etc. That is actually merely depending on inelastic demand only. Regardless of price, people are ready to buy. Multiple use of products, for example, electricity, water, that is actually elastic demand. It will create major impact on the price hike. Durability and repairability. Durable goods. It can be repaired and reused, so people don't buy frequently. Correct? Furniture, electronics, etc. These are called durable goods. Another one is actually called perishable goods. Must be brought regularly, vegetable, milk, etc. Possibility of postponing the purchase. If purchase can be delayed, buying a new car, then if purchase cannot be delayed, like buying a life-saving medicines, correct? Income level of the customer plays very important role. Like rich people, we can put in the category of inelastic demand. Price doesn't matter for them. But if I go for like a poor people, we can categorize into elastic demand. They are merely sensitive to price changes, correct? Price changes of the product, very expensive or very cheap products, we categorize into inelastic demand. If moderate and price goods, which is categorized into elastic demand because it is very sensitive to price changes. Habit formation. If people are addicted, we categorized into inelastic demand. Why? Because cigarette, coffee. Once you addicted, now definitely without cigarette you cannot live. Without coffee you cannot live. You will not get any mood to work. If people are not addicted, for example, luxury watches, so that is basically elastic demand. That will be depending on price changes. Similarly, time period also very important. Short term demand is inelastic. People will take to change habit. If I talk about like a long term, it's a demand is elastic. People find alternative to over a time. If the time also matters. Knowledge and awareness plays very important role. More information, that means elastic demand. They will compare the prices. They will talk with the people and they will decide whether any options are available. That become elastic. Okay. If a person is new to a particular place, so that we'll call like inelastic demand. Complementary goods. If a product depends on another one, demand is inelastic. If petrol prices increases, people still need to buy it for their cars. Similarly, frequency of purchase, daily like use items, merely under inelastic demand, milk, salt, soap, etc., highly unavoidable. It doesn't depend on the price changes. Occasionally brought items, especially that is belong to elastic demand. Because when I'm going to book a ticket, of course, I will see the price. Even I won't book during weekend. I will book only during weekdays to save my money, correct? To save my pockets. So these are the basic discussion which has happened on elastic demand and inelasticity in demand. You might have understood the concept of elasticity demand and various factors which are affecting the elasticity of demand. By the way, I wanted to conclude the session. Elasticity of demand helps business and policy makers to take decisions about pricing, taxation, and policies, of course. By understanding, we can predict how people will react to the price changes accordingly. Elasticity of demand helps understanding how much demand changes when the price, income, or other factors changes, of course. Products that are necessary have no substitute or no other habits belong to inelastic demand. Salt, medicine, sugar, price, then whatever it may be, which all are comes under inelastic demand. Similarly, products that as luxury have substitute or can be postponed comes under elastic demand, more sensitive to price changes. So that is the major conclusion. I think you might have understood the elastic demand and inelastic demand. And the classification also you might have understood and various factors as well. Let me know if you have any queries regarding this topic. I'm always welcome you. Let us have a discussion through comment box. I'm waiting for your valuable comments and you can suggest me for my improvement. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you are watching our channel first time, kindly subscribe and request you to share those who are working in the similar kind of domain. Those who are doing the business, I think it will be really helpful and they should understand about what is elasticity demand and inelastic in demand. Thank you for watching this video. Happy learning. Have a great day.